The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species in the known universe. It could hold 1 million beings at once. Today, only 12,000 had come. They sat in floating chairs that circled around a central platform made of white stone. This stone was older than most stars. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked toward this platform. Her boots made soft sounds on the ancient floor. She was 63 years old. Her hair was gray, and her face showed many years of difficult work. In her hand, she carried a small device that held one message. This message would change everything. The alien leaders watched her with many different kinds of eyes. Some had no eyes at all, but could sense her movement through vibration or heat. The Vethkai clicked their sharp mouthparts nervously. The Orani, who shared one mind among thousands of bodies, hummed a worried tune. The crystalline High Arbiter Kethvorin glowed with soft blue light from his place above everyone else. Elena had been coming to this hall for 30 years. Humanity had been part of this council for 12,000 years. Today was the last day. Ambassador Vasquez, High Arbiter Kethvorin said. His voice came from everywhere at once. I hope you bring good news. I hope you have changed your mind about this foolish action. Elena stepped onto the central platform. She looked up at the thousands of faces watching her. Some looked angry. Some looked confused. A few looked sad. I have not changed my mind, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. Humanity is leaving the Galactic Council. This is our final decision. The hall erupted in noise. Shouting, clicking, humming, and sounds that human ears could not properly hear filled the space. Kethvorin's light flashed bright to call for silence. This is madness, said a large creature with 6 arms. He was Ambassador Torval of the Hegemony, humanity's oldest rival. You cannot survive alone. No species can. We are not leaving to be alone, Elena said. We are leaving because we have work to do. Work that the Council has forbidden for too long. The noise started again, but quieter this time. Everyone knew what she meant. The boundary question, Kethvorin said. His crystal body dimmed with something like fear. You cannot seriously mean to pursue this. For 12,000 years, humanity had asked one question at every council meeting. What exists beyond the observable limit? The observable limit was the edge of all known space. Beyond it, sensors showed nothing. Ships that flew toward it never returned. The council had made it illegal to investigate. The founders forbade this exploration, Kethvorin continued. They were the ancient ones who built the first civilizations. They created the laws that keep us safe. Their warning about the limit is absolute. The founders are dead, Elena said simply. They have been dead for billions of years, and their warning was not what you think it was. She touched her device. A hologram appeared above the platform. It showed a map of the galaxy, then zoomed out to show the universe. Then it zoomed out further, to the observable limit itself. 6 months ago, one of our deep space probes found something. Elena pointed at the hologram. A station, hidden at the very edge of the limit. It was old, older than any star currently burning. It was a founder station. The silence was complete now. No one moved. The station's computer was still working. Barely. Before it died completely, it gave us everything. All its data, all its history, all its warnings. Elena's voice became heavy with emotion. The founders did not forbid exploration of the limit to protect us from what is outside. They forbade it because they did not want us to know the truth. What truth? Kethvorin asked. His light had become very dim. The universe is not natural, Elena said. Everything we see, every star, every planet, every atom of matter, exists inside a bubble. A protective field that the founders built billions of years ago. Outside this bubble, there is nothing. Not empty space, not darkness, nothing at all. No rules of physics, no time, no existence. She let this sink in. The founders were not from this universe. They came from somewhere else, somewhere that collapsed before history began. They built this bubble as a shelter, a place where reality could work properly. And they spent billions of years maintaining it. Maintaining it? Someone asked. The bubble is not permanent. It requires constant repair. Generators spread throughout the universe keep it stable. The founders operated these generators. They watched over everything. Elena paused. But the founders grew old. They died out, one by one. The last of them vanished millions of years ago. Since then, the generators have been failing. She changed the hologram. Now it showed spots of red, spreading from the edges of the map, moving slowly inward. This is the current state of the boundary field. The red areas show where the generators have failed, where reality itself is beginning to collapse. Elena looked directly at Kathvoren. In 200 years, the failure will reach the core worlds. In 300 years, there will be nothing left. The hall remained silent. The alien leaders stared at the red spots on the map. Humanity is leaving, Elena said, because someone needs to fix this. Someone needs to take over the work the founders left behind. We asked you for help for 12,000 years. You told us the question was forbidden. So, now we will answer it ourselves. She stepped down from the platform. You are welcome to join us, but we will not wait for your permission. Ambassador Torvald stood up. His 6 arms trembled with anger, or fear, or both. This is a lie, a trick. You cannot expect us to believe such a story. Elena stopped at the door. She looked back at the thousands of beings who had ruled the galaxy for so long. Look at your sky tonight, she said. Watch the stars on the rim. Some of them will go dark. Not because they burned out, because they stopped existing. She walked through the door and did not look back. That night, across 1,000 worlds, people looked up at familiar skies. They watched stars they had known their whole lives, and one by one, so slowly that most did not notice, the lights on the edge of everything began to disappear. 18 months passed after humanity left the Galactic Council. During this time, the Council tried to pretend nothing had changed. They continued their meetings. They passed their laws. They argued about trade and borders as they always had. Then the first planet disappeared. Cathari Prime was a small world far from the center of the galaxy. About 50,000 people lived there. They worked in mines, digging valuable metals from the ground. It was not an important place. Most people had never heard of it. One morning, ships tried to contact Cathari Prime. There was no answer. When they sent a probe to investigate, the probe found nothing. Not ruins, not debris. Just empty space where a planet used to be. High Arbiter Kathvoren received this news in his private room. His crystal body shook with fear. He had never felt fear like this before. He was 3,000 years old, and he had seen many terrible things. This was the end of everything. Show me all the reports, he told his assistant. His assistant was a small creature with many tentacles. She worked the controls, and a map of the galaxy appeared in the air. Red dots covered the outer edges of the map. Each dot was a problem. A star that had gone dark. A ship that had vanished. A place where the rules of physics had stopped working properly. The pattern is clear, his assistant said. The problems are spreading inward, toward the center, toward us. Kathvoren stared at the map. The human ambassador had warned them. She had shown them this exact picture. The council had not believed her. They had called her a liar, a fool, a troublemaker. Now people were dying because the council had been too proud to listen. There is more, his assistant said carefully. Our long-range sensors have detected human ships, thousands of them. They are positioned along the edge of the red zone. What are they doing? We are not certain. But in areas where human ships are present, the spreading has slowed down. In some places, it has stopped completely. Kethvoron moved to his window. Outside, the capital city of the council spread across the planet's surface. Billions of beings lived here. They went about their daily lives, not knowing that reality itself was coming apart at the edges. "Send a message to the human fleet," Kethvoron said. "Tell them we want to talk." Far away at the edge of known space, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Prometheus. She was older now, tired from months of impossible work. Dark circles hung under her eyes. She had not slept properly in weeks. Around her, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Screens showed the locations of human ships spread across thousands of positions. Each ship was fighting the same enemy, the collapse of reality itself. "Admiral, we have another failure in Sector 7, an officer reported. Generator 7 Alpha has gone offline. The boundary is breaking down." "Send the Hercules and the Atlas," Elena said. "Tell them to stabilize the area while we get a repair team ready." This was her life now. Endless emergencies, endless repairs. Every day brought new failures, new crises, new regions of space that were falling apart. The founder technology was ancient and strange. Human engineers were learning how it worked, but the learning was slow and the problems were fast. "Admiral, incoming message from the Galactic Council." Elena closed her eyes for a moment. Part of her wanted to ignore it. For 12,000 years, the Council had treated humanity like children. They had refused to listen. They had forbidden the questions that might have saved everyone. Now, they wanted to talk. But anger would not fix the universe. Pride would not save the billions who would die if the boundary field collapsed. "Put it through," she said. Kethvoron's face appeared on the main screen. He looked different than Elena remembered. Smaller somehow, less certain. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said, "or should I say Admiral now?" "Admiral is fine. I will be direct. You were right. We were wrong. The Council has spent 18 months denying what you told us, and during that time, we have lost 3 planets and 17 stations. We cannot deny it any longer." Elena nodded slowly. "I take no pleasure in being right about this. What do you need from us?" The question surprised her. She had expected arguments, demands, conditions. Instead, the most powerful being in the galaxy was asking how he could help. "Everything," Elena said. "Ships, people, resources, scientists, engineers, the founder generators are scattered across the entire universe. We have found about 4,000 of them so far, and at least half are failing. We can repair them, but we don't have enough people or equipment. The Council can provide these things. I know, but there is something else." Elena leaned forward. "The Council cannot lead this effort. Your people are good at politics and laws and trade. But this is not a political problem. This is an engineering problem, a survival problem. Humanity has been preparing for this for 6 months. We understand the technology. We know what needs to be done." Kethvoron's light flickered. She was asking him to give up power, to put humans in charge. "If I agree to this," he said slowly, "many species will resist. They will not accept human leadership. Then they will die." Elena's voice was not cruel, just honest. "This is not about pride or politics. This is about whether anyone survives the next 200 years. I don't care about power. I don't care about who leads. I care about fixing the problem." There was a long silence. "I will call a council meeting," Kethvoron finally said. "I will recommend that we accept your terms." Elena allowed herself a small moment of relief. "Thank you. And Kethvoron, you should start preparing evacuation plans for the outer territories. Quietly, without causing panic. We will do our best, but we cannot save everyone. The communication ended. Elena turned back to her screens, to the endless list of failures and repairs and emergencies. Outside the ship's windows, the stars at the edge of the galaxy flickered like candles in the wind. Somewhere out there, the walls of reality were crumbling, and a small group of humans stood in the gap, trying to hold back the darkness. They had not asked for this job. They had not wanted it. But someone had to do it, and no one else had been willing. This was humanity's gift to the universe. Not intelligence, not power, not technology. Just the simple refusal to give up when giving up was the easier choice. The council chamber felt empty now. Where once there had been representatives from nearly 1,000 species, now less than half remained. Some had fled to what they believed were safer places. Some had lost their homeworlds to the spreading collapse. Some had simply stopped coming, too afraid or too hopeless to continue. High Arbiter Keth Voron stood at his place above the chamber. His crystal body glowed dimly. The past months had drained him. He had watched worlds disappear. He had received desperate messages from dying colonies. He had seen the maps turn redder and redder each day. Today he would ask the Council to do something that had never been done in all of history. Today he would ask them to follow humans. "I call this emergency session to order," he announced. His voice echoed in the half-empty hall. "You all know why we are here. The threat Ambassador Vasquez warned us about is real. The boundary of reality is failing. If we do nothing, we will all die." A hegemony delegate stood up. His name was Torval the Younger, son of the one who had called Elena a liar 18 months ago. His father had died when his ship passed through a zone where physics had stopped working. The ship simply fell apart, atom by atom, in a matter of seconds. "What do you propose?" Torval asked. There was no anger in his voice now, only tiredness. Keth Voron activated the main display. A recording of Admiral Elena Vasquez appeared. She looked even more exhausted than the last time they had spoken. Behind her, screens showed constant streams of data, warnings, and reports. "I will explain the situation as simply as I can," Elena said in the recording. "The universe exists inside a protective bubble. The founders built this bubble billions of years ago. They used machines called generators to maintain it. These generators are spread throughout all of space. There are about 10,000 of them." She changed the display to show a map. When the founders died, the generators were left alone. Most of them have automatic repair systems, but these systems are failing after billions of years of use. When a generator fails, the area it protected becomes unstable. Reality starts to break down. Matter stops working properly. Time becomes strange. Eventually, everything in that area simply stops existing. The recording showed red zones spreading across the map. Humanity has been repairing generators for 18 months. We have fixed about 300 of them, but there are thousands more that are failing or will fail soon. We need help. Elena looked directly at the camera. "I am not asking for your obedience. I am not asking for your loyalty. I am asking for your hands, your minds, your ships, and your resources. Every species in this council has skills that we need. The Vethkai are the best zero-gravity engineers in the galaxy. The Orani Collective can monitor thousands of systems at once through their shared mind. The Hegemony has the largest industrial capacity outside of human space." She paused. "The founders worked alone because they had no choice. There were no other intelligent species when they built this bubble. Now there are hundreds of species. If we work together, we can do more than maintain what the founders built. We can improve it. We can make it stronger. We can save everyone." The recording ended. Keth Voron stepped forward. "Admiral Vasquez has requested that the Council form a joint command to address this crisis. She has further requested that this command be led by humans, as they have the most experience with founder technology. He paused. I recommend that we accept both requests. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates shouted in protest. Others called for questions. A few simply sat in silence, too shocked to respond. You ask us to give up our power? A small delegate with blue skin demanded. To become servants of humans? I ask you to survive. Ketferon replied. Power means nothing if we are all dead. Pride means nothing if our worlds cease to exist. We can argue about who leads, or we can work together to live. The choice is simple. Torvald the Younger stood again. The hall fell quiet. The hegemony had been humanity's greatest rival for centuries. What they said now would matter. My father hated humans, Torvald said slowly. He believed they were arrogant, dangerous, and too ambitious. He voted against them at every opportunity. He laughed when they left the council. He called them fools who would die alone in the darkness. He paused. My father was wrong. The humans were the only ones brave enough to look at the truth. They were the only ones willing to do something about it. And now they are the only ones who can teach us how to save ourselves. He turned to face the other delegates. I vote to accept the human proposal. I vote to follow their lead. Not because I think they are better than us, but because they are the ones doing the work. They are the ones holding back the collapse, while we sit here and argue. The vote took less than an hour. Some species abstained. One small group voted against. But when the count was finished, the Galactic Council had agreed to follow human command for the first time in history. Ketferon sent the result to Admiral Vasquez. Her response came quickly. Thank the Council for their trust. Tell them to prepare their ships and their people. Training begins in 1 week at the following coordinates. There is no time to waste. And so, the great work began. Ships from 100 worlds flew to the meeting points that humans had established. Engineers who had never seen each other before learned to work side by side. Scientists shared knowledge that had been kept secret for generations. Old enemies became partners. Old rivals became friends. It was not easy. There were arguments, mistakes, and failures. Some species struggled to understand founder technology. Some refused to take orders from beings they had once looked down upon. Cultural differences caused confusion and conflict. But slowly, day by day, the work moved forward. Generators were repaired. Boundary zones were stabilized. The red areas on the map began to shrink, at least in some places. Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the Prometheus as the first joint repair mission completed its work. A founder generator the size of a small moon hummed back to life. The collapse in that sector stopped spreading. One down, she said quietly. About 3,000 to go. Her first officer, a young man named James, stood beside her. Do you think we can actually do this, Admiral? Save everyone? Elena was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, she admitted. But I know that we have to try. That's what humans do. We look at impossible problems and we try anyway. Sometimes we fail, but sometimes we don't. And even when we fail, we usually make things a little better than they were before. She turned back to the screens, showing the massive efforts spreading across the galaxy. The founders worked alone for billions of years. They got tired. They gave up. But there are trillions of us now. If we can learn to work together, if we can keep trying even when it seems hopeless, maybe we can succeed where they failed. James nodded slowly. The universe is lucky that humans asked forbidden questions. Elena smiled for the first time in months. The universe is lucky that humans don't know when to quit. 50 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy had changed completely. Where there had once been borders between empires, there were now supply routes for repair crews. Where there had once been battle fleets, there were now maintenance ships carrying spare parts and equipment. The old ways of competition and war had been replaced by something new. Cooperation for survival. Commander Yuki Chen was born 30 years after the crisis began. She had never known the old galaxy. To her, the great work of maintaining reality was simply life. Her parents had been repair technicians. Her grandparents had been among the first humans to learn founder technology. Holding back the collapse was the family business. She stood on the observation deck of Station Prometheus 7, watching a team of HFY engineers install new equipment on a founder generator. The generator was enormous, bigger than many moons. It had been built billions of years ago by beings who were now dust and memory, and it had been slowly dying until the repair crews came. "Looking good," said a voice beside her. Kethvoron stood there, his crystal body glowing softly. He was not the original High Arbiter. That one had died 20 years ago. This Kethvoron had grown from a piece of the original's matrix, carrying his memories and personality. It was how his species passed on their knowledge. "The new power system is working better than expected," Yuki said. "We might actually get another 10,000 years out of this generator." "Your people continue to amaze me," Kethvoron said. "The founders built these machines, but they never improved them. They simply maintained what they had. Humans look at ancient technology and ask how to make it better." Yuki shrugged. "We don't like accepting limits. If something can work better, we want to find out how." This was the truth of humanity's gift to the crisis. They were not the smartest species. The Orani could calculate faster. The HFY could build more precisely. The hegemony could manufacture more quickly. But humans asked questions that others did not think to ask. They challenged assumptions that others accepted as facts. When HFY engineers said a repair was impossible, humans asked why. When Orani calculators predicted failure, humans asked if there was another way. When ancient founder systems seemed unchangeable, humans experimented until they found improvements. It drove the other species crazy at first, but the results spoke for themselves. Generator efficiency had increased by 40% in 5 decades. Failure rates had dropped by half. The red zones on the galactic map were shrinking for the first time since the crisis began. Yuki's communication device buzzed. "Chen here. Commander, priority message from the Coordination Center. You need to see this right away." She found the message waiting in her office. It was from Admiral Elena Vasquez, who was now 92 years old. She had never stopped working, never retired, never rested. She ran operations from her mobile command ship, the Sisyphus, named after a figure from old human stories who had been cursed to push a boulder up a hill forever. Elena's face appeared on the screen. She was old now, her hair white, her skin wrinkled, but her eyes were still sharp and alert. "I'll keep this brief because there is much to do," Elena said. "Our survey teams have found something important. Very important. It could change everything." Yuki leaned forward. "The founder bubble was never meant to last forever," Elena continued. "It was a temporary solution, something to keep reality stable while they searched for a permanent answer. We found a data storage unit in what used to be the original center of the bubble. It contains plans for something the founders called a persistence engine." "What does it do?" "If we understand the plans correctly, it would create stable reality without needing the boundary field at all. Instead of maintaining a bubble that keeps the chaos outside, it would establish permanent physical laws throughout the entire region. No more generators to repair, no more boundaries to watch. Reality would simply work on its own." Yuki felt her heart beating faster. For 50 years, every person in the galaxy had lived with the fear of collapse. The idea of ending that fear, of creating something permanent and safe, seemed almost too good to believe. "Can we build it?" Elena's expression became serious. "The plans are incomplete. The founders never finished the design. They died before they could. But we have something they did not have. We have 1,000 species working together. We have 50 years of experience with their technology. We have minds that question and improve and refuse to give up. She paused. I am putting together a research team. The best engineers, scientists, and thinkers from every species. If anyone can finish what the founders started, we can. But it will take time. Maybe 100 years, maybe more. The work of maintaining the boundary must continue while we try. I understand, Yuki said. What do you need from me? I need you to lead the construction project when the design is ready. Your grandmother was one of my best officers. Your mother helped develop the improved generator systems we use today. You have the knowledge and the skill. Most importantly, you have the stubbornness that this job requires. Yuki smiled slightly. Stubbornness runs in the family. It runs in the species. Report to the following coordinates when you can. We have a lot of planning to do. The message ended. Yuki sat quietly for a moment, looking out at the stars. 50 years ago, humanity had left the Galactic Council because no one else would ask the hard questions. Now they were leading a project that might make the universe permanent. Not because they were special, not because they were chosen, simply because they had been willing to try when everyone else had given up. Outside the window, repair ships moved between the stars like fireflies in the darkness. Each one carried crews from different worlds, different species, different backgrounds. They argued and laughed and worked together because the alternative was death. The universe was still in danger. The boundary was still failing in some places. The collapse was still spreading in others. But for the first time since the crisis began, there was hope for something better than endless maintenance. There was hope for a future where the next generation would not have to spend their lives holding back the dark. Yuki stood up and began preparing for her new assignment. There was work to do. There was always work to do. But now, the work had a goal beyond simple survival. Now they were building something that would last forever. 300 years had passed since the first plans for the persistence engine were discovered. 12 generations of engineers, scientists, and workers had dedicated their lives to the project. They had argued over designs. They had solved problems that seemed impossible. They had failed many times and started over many more times. Twice, the early versions of the engine had become unstable. They had to be destroyed before they collapsed the space around them. Once, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A young member of the Irani collective had become fascinated by human poetry. She discovered that the mathematical patterns in the engine's design looked similar to the patterns in human verse. This strange connection helped solve a problem that had stopped progress for 20 years. Admiral Elena Vasquez had died at 107 years old, having seen the first successful test of a single component. Her ashes were scattered at the construction site, along with the remains of thousands of others who had given their lives to the project. But the work continued. It always continued. Now, 3 centuries after it began, the persistence engine was finally complete. Admiral Mei Chen stood in the observation gallery above the construction zone. She was 94 years old, the great-great-granddaughter of Yuki Chen, who had led the construction project for its first 50 years. Around her stood representatives from all the species that had survived the crisis. Kethvaron 9 glowed beside her. He was the 9th descendant of the original High Arbiter, grown from pieces of each previous generation's crystal matrix. In a way, he carried the memories of everyone who had come before him. He remembered the day Elena Vasquez had stood in the council chamber and told them the universe was dying. "It is beautiful," Kethvaron said, looking at the engine. He was right. The device was a sphere, made of thousands of interlocking parts. Each part had been built by a different species according to the original founder plans, and improved by centuries of study. At the center of the sphere, a tiny point of captured energy waited to be released. Beginning primary activation sequence, a voice announced from the control room. May watched the screens as numbers and symbols scrolled past. Around her, trillions of beings across the galaxy held their breath. This moment had been 300 years in coming. Generations had been born, lived, and died preparing for it. Secondary sequence engaged. Field generation in 30 seconds. Kathvorin turned to May. Your ancestor would be proud. All of your ancestors would be proud. May nodded slowly. Elena Vasquez once told my grandmother that she almost did not invite the council to join them. She almost let them figure things out on their own. Why did she change her mind? Because that is not what humans do. We do not abandon people, even people who have been unkind to us. We complain about them, we argue with them, and we get frustrated with them. But we do not leave them to die. Field generation in 10 seconds. Across the galaxy, prayers rose in 1,000 languages. Families held each other close. Workers on distant stations stopped their tasks to watch the broadcast. For 300 years, everyone had lived with the knowledge that reality could collapse at any moment. Now that long nightmare was about to end. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The persistence engine activated. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The sphere glowed brighter, but the universe looked the same. Then the sensors began showing new readings, stable reality, spreading outward from the device at the speed of light. Not a bubble that needed maintenance, not a boundary that could fail. True stability, built into the fabric of space itself. The founder technology had held reality together like a bandage. The persistence engine was healing the wound permanently. The cheering started in the control room. It spread to the observation gallery, then to the station, then to the fleet of ships surrounding the construction zone. Across thousands of worlds, people celebrated with tears and laughter and disbelief. May allowed herself one moment of joy. Then she turned to her assistant. What is the timeline for full coverage? Approximately 400 years, Admiral. The effect must spread to every corner of the universe. Then we have 400 years of maintenance ahead of us. The old generators must keep working until the new field reaches them. She straightened her uniform. The work is not finished. It is only changing. 1,000 years later, the memorial on Earth's moon covered 300 square kilometers. It was a forest of crystal pillars, each one inscribed with names of those who had contributed to saving reality. There were billions of names, in hundreds of languages. Some pillars honored entire species. Others honored individuals who had made crucial discoveries or sacrifices. At the center stood the original monument, built before the persistence engine was even complete. The inscription was simple. They asked what lay beyond. When they learned, they went to help humanity. Below this, added later by vote of all the galaxy's species. They did not have to. They did not expect thanks. They simply did what needed to be done. The species they saved. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see this place. Parrots brought children to teach them history. Teachers brought students to show them what cooperation could achieve. Leaders came to remember why they served. The stars above the memorial burned steady and bright. They no longer needed ancient machines to keep them stable. They no longer risked disappearing into the chaos outside. Reality simply worked now, held together not by maintenance, but by the new laws that the persistence engine had written into the structure of space. Humanity had left the Galactic Council 350 years before the engine was completed. They had been called arrogant and foolish. They had been warned that they would fail. They had been told to stay in their place and stop asking dangerous questions. Instead, they had saved everything. Not alone, not as conquerors or masters, but as the first ones to try, the ones who showed others what was possible, the ones who refused to accept that some problems could not be solved. In the end, That was humanity's greatest gift to the universe. Not intelligence, not technology, not power. Just the simple, stubborn refusal to give up when giving up was the easier choice. The universe had followed them into the darkness. Together, they had found a way to make light.